Hey guys, Pete Moriarty here, and I'm excited to be here with you. Today I'm sharing my journey of going remote, how I took a company that was 5 years old at the time, multiple millions in revenue, and transitioned it from office work to a full remote team. Pretty crazy process, and there were certainly some challenges along the way. I'm going to give you a little bit of a snapshot. Before I get into the meat and potatoes of our journey, I want to share something with you, and that is the remote working scale. And this is something that I was shared from a company called Buffer. And Buffer are it's like a social media management app, but they're a full remote company, and they're one of the first businesses to kind of start blogging about it and sharing it widely. And the remote working scale is a really easy way to kind of show what are the different stages of a company transitioning to remote work. You can see here all the way on the left, you've got a completely office-based business. Everyone comes into the one place to get their work done. You then have office-based, but like work from home sometimes. And honestly, most companies don't get past step 2. That's basically it. Even most corporate businesses in Australia now do not get past step number 2. But there's a whole nother world of businesses that are running in step 3, step 4, and step 5, and that's what I want to talk a little bit more about. So step number 3 is different team members in different time zones, right? And this is typically thought about only as being accessible to multinationals or large businesses that have really broken through that small business stage, but it is available for small business owners. Now, for anyone who's started hiring offshore resources, maybe in the Philippines, it's really popular, then this may be your first step into having international team members, and that's kind of like step 3, starting. Then you have number 4, remote teams in many time zones, and so that's an actual real distributed team. And they're the kind of businesses that are, opening up for 24-hour support, which we are on the journey of. They're businesses that maybe from the ground up have decided we are not going to restrict ourselves to talent in just one place. We're going to open ourselves up to hiring from wherever. That's pretty cool. And then step number 5 here you can see is a completely distributed team with nomads. And what that means is there's no offices included, and people not only are working internationally, but they are also traveling. And that's black belt level. That's like totally pro. So our aim has always been in the work that we do with our customers to help you move one step to the right. We're not trying to get you to level 5. We're just trying to help you move one step to the right. And that helps businesses move from traditional infrastructure like servers, even people using Dropbox or consumer Gmail accounts for their business file storage, and helping them move into a collaborative platform which allows them to get work done. And it doesn't mean that you have to be nomads traveling the world, running the business completely remotely. Get work done from any device, and we say at any time. Hopefully you've got good boundaries around when you do actually work. But from any device at any time means that you have the flexibility to work where and when you want to. Now, for many businesses, when they work with us, they're starting at level 1. They're all the way on the left. They're in an office. They're sometimes driving to the office to get work done. They may have like a VPN or remote desktop set up, but it's usually a pretty crap experience because internet connections are not always great, and Microsoft Remote Desktop is pretty terrible. And we are moving them into that collaborative workspace at Google Cloud, and that allows them to actually seamlessly get work done. And I'm talking video calls on Hangouts, chat using Hangouts Chat, which is a little bit like Slack. Google Drive is way better than Dropbox. It's got heaps more business features. And then, of course, Gmail has all the power of Google's amazing AI, search algorithms, and everything else in an inbox that will never slow down, never crash the search, and never get full. You get unlimited storage if you're on the business plan on G Suite. And so what that does is that enables businesses to go along this journey. Now, once we've kind of implemented G Suite, then there's other products like cloud-based phone system, cloud-based CRM system, cloud-based task management, cloud-based workflow automation. All of those things kind of like get peppered in there, but the base foundational level is that you get set up and we help you manage that migration process. Now, how do you manage your team actually going along this remote work scale? How do you take them along that journey? That is a people journey. It's a change management journey. And I've got another framework on change management, which I will share in another video on leading and managing effective change with your team. But you need to learn, and you need to learn yourself first, and then take your team on that journey of change in transitioning from a local, everyone's in the same place type setup to being able to work remotely or working differently. Now, for some people, they've said up until recently, hey, you know what, that's fine. I'm really comfortable going to the office. I like having, separation between home and the office, and that works for me. And I really want my staff to be in the office so either customers can meet with us or I can see what they're doing, or we feel more collaborative when we're in the office. However, current times have changed and many are being forced now to work at home, which is great for us because we're in a great position to actually educate, but it's quite a challenge, and we've really heard that challenge from our customers, that right now it's a bit of a shock to the system. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. So my point with sharing the remote working scale for you is just try and move one step to the right. That's all you need to do. Don't try and get to step 5. You don't need to. Just try and move one step to the right, or you might have to go 2 steps because everyone's going to be working at home. Okay, cool. So I want to move on, and I want to talk about our remote business journey and how we kind of went from being in an office to completely switching over to being remote. And so we had an office in North Sydney. We had 5 staff in that office. Before that, we had an office in Crow's Nest, and I think we had 6 or 7 people there. And the business had kind of gone up and down. And being a service business, for anyone who's in a service business, you would know there's this constant challenge of making sure you've got enough work coming in for the consulting dollars to pay for all of your labor, because the biggest cost is the labor, and then second biggest cost is the office. And there's a general rule, I think it comes from accountants, that you want to have each full-time staff member generating about 3 times their revenue, 3 times their salary in revenue, so they can pay for themselves. So a third of that revenue goes to their salary, a third of the revenue goes to outgoings, and a third of the revenue goes to profit, right? But that's hard to see in a growing and scaling business, to see that profit. I shared a post recently on my Facebook page and LinkedIn of how I was in $350,000 of debt by the time I was 24, and how I kind of navigated that journey. Now, we were in this up and down, this constant challenge of making sure we had enough dollars coming in to pay for the labor for our service business. And around that time, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And he talked about getting a VA in the Philippines, someone who can help you get some of your stuff done, but most importantly, have a cheaper cost of labor for the business. And I was like, that's interesting. Let me see if I can get that done. And initially I was really scared because I thought, well, what if my customers find out? At the time, Telstra call centers had a really bad reputation of outsourcing to the Philippines. And I think there was a lot of real angst from Australian customers and Australian business owners and just Australians in general with offshore call centers and what that meant. And so that was challenging for me to get through on a mindset level of, well, if I start hiring in the Philippines, what does that mean for my brand? What does that mean for my business? What does that mean for my customer experience? And how will that change us as a company? So we started, the first step of the journey was just hiring back office positions, so non-customer facing. So data processing, data entry, managing other things that I deemed, well, this is safe. And what I found over time was our international team members were coming from quite prestigious roles. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Some of our staff were ex-Microsoft. Some of our staff were ex-Google. Some of our staff were ex-Apple. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And what I learned was the staff that had worked through the BPOs into these larger companies had actually had amazing training, were extremely well qualified, and were excellent workers. And I was like, wow, bloody hell, that's really awesome. And it really broke down my perception that someone overseas, someone who's not Australian, can actually be a great worker. And I guess at the time I had subscribed to the collective thought that someone who was of a different culture or born in a different country was different in their ability to work. Now, there are long-standing differences in culture, that's a reality, and language and accent and those kind of things. However, it's no different to working with someone from the United States or another country that speaks a different, a closer level of English to us with maybe like a different accent twang. I think what was interesting at the time is what I discovered was how I saw our country versus developing countries and what my perception was there of working with different people. And so as that perception slowly over time broke down and our team excelled more and more and more, I allowed myself to say, okay, well, let's put some of my team in customer-facing positions and see how this goes. And what I found, not so much from a customer perspective, because customers, I guess, didn't really know the difference. That was pretty cool. We did most of our work delivered to customers remotely at the time. We were doing remote support and all those kind of things. But what I found was really interesting, on a performance perspective, our international team members were performing better than local staff. And I went, wow, holy crap, that's a big one. Someone who has a dramatically different economic cost to the business is actually outperforming staff that I have locally. And that was the moment that made me go, wow, okay, I've changed my perspective here and things need to be done differently.